Welcome to a new moon video in Gemini. This is a fresh new start of a 6-month cycle that occurs June 6th when the sun and the moon meet together at 16 degrees and 17 minutes of Gemini. That is at 12:37 GMT, so midday around Central Europe. So adjust for your local time zone. This affects your rituals and manifestation practices because you do not want to do them before the new moon happens, because then it's in the void and it gets lost, so to speak. So all the rituals that you want to do are after the time of the new moon. So anything after 12:37 GMT, midday Europe, adjust for your local time zone so you know when to do your own, because a new moon is a very fruitful beginning kind of energy. So this is where we plant our seeds, where we lay our eggs, so to speak, and we do wishes. We can do wishes. As Jan Spiller, the astrologer, tells us, we receive 10 new moon wishes every new moon cycle. And if you write them as if they have already occurred, and especially around Gemini themes, because this is a new moon in Gemini, then it is said that there is this magical portal in the air that grants your wishes. And you know, if you track them, it's fun to look back and see if they have come true. Now Gemini new moon, as I said, fresh beginnings, fresh energies, new starts, new projects, new friends, new places to go, new excitements, new endeavors, new things to learn, new books to read, anything around information, because that's Gemini, around communication, so expression, talking, but also writing and sharing in some kind of way. Learning is very Gemini, so this is where we are able to process a lot of information. Gemini is also a very youthful sign, very energetic, very fun-loving, very social, very conversational, very witty, and wanting to have a good time, wanting to do a lot. It's about diversity, doing many different things, having a lot of interests, a lot of curiosity that drives this multitude of things going on. Of course, with Gemini, there is that, ADHD kind of way where you have to watch out that, you're easily distracted with Gemini energy. It's hard to finish things, and, your mind is scattered, focus is scattered, and it's harder to get things done. But all these different interests is very explorative, is kind of like, see where your interests lie and follow them, follow what interests you the most. So Gemini is where you have a multitude of choices and you want to explore them. That's the time for it. So it's about learning new skills, learning new information, taking a course, going to a workshop, working with your hands, maybe pottery, who knows, or writing something, enjoying that, or really enjoying the uses of words and how you can improve your expression, how you can be more expressive and just have more people around you than usual, or at least that's one of the things that you can wish for. And you'll notice that Gemini season, because the sun has already been in Gemini for quite some time here, and now Jupiter is entered Gemini, so the Gemini energy is very increased in the air, and you will notice that people are more talkative even if they don't know you, and neighbors might come by more often than normal, because Gemini is also about your immediate environment, your daily mobility, so to speak. So it's also your neighbors, your neighborhood, close by places, so short distance travel. So with Gemini, let's say you'll be interested to not necessarily take the plane and go really far, but like take the bicycle and bike to the next city, or explore some of the, sightseeing or interesting places that are nearby that you usually do not do. So that's where the focus is more on. And immediate environment also means immediate family in a way. So brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles are also related to Gemini. So you could be, themes around that might come up. And friends and your peers, people from around your own age, or anyone in your neighborhood, really. You could notice that you are more friendly than normal, you're more talkative than normal. And we want to embrace this social time, as we have been deprived of a lot of social environments in these last couple of years. So as this is a 6-month cycle, it could be promising to implement more of that into your life. To look at the brighter and lighter side of things, because that's Gemini too. And then, as I said, mobility, so bicycle, cars, anything with wheels, anything with twos, are Gemini related. So this is also where you could have 2 or more projects going on, or 2 or more interests going on, or the multitude and the choices of life is what we want to explore. It is at 16 degrees is a crab degree, so it's also about home, family, safety, security, and as Gemini would say, closer to home. And also, as I have gone through that very intensely, so I won't do that here, but I explained in the Jupiter Gemini video that, as that is a 1-year transit, it's going to be all about the brain and the mental capacity and the mental aspect of things, and how the healing of the mental and the brain is going to be at front center. Also mental health issues, trauma related to mental health issues, topics such as, for instance, bipolar disorder, or ADHD, or, even, I suppose, depression related things. All about the mental and the mind side of things are going to be very enhanced with Jupiter and Gemini. And this new moon being sort of the birth ground in a way for that as well in the collective. This is where you could maybe set some intentions around that, healing the brain, healing, being more healthy in the mind, basically. And, as I talk about in that video, it's about the left and right hemisphere of the brain. And in a spiritual sense, it's sort of about overcoming the duality of things, or at least gaining a higher perspective. But in Gemini and Jupiter, it is also about just a lot of joy, a lot of laughter, a lot of the fun side of life as well. And that's with this new moon too. But it's at a crab degree, right? So back to that whole mental thing and the healing aspect. The crab degree also indicates that it's about lineage. So, ancestry, roots that there's an element in this new moon that is related to that, and I strongly believe that that's related to the subconscious field, and the health of the mental capacity of everyone. So I suppose this degree is a reminder to that. And then I guess if we look at the aspects, we have right there with the sun and moon, we have Venus also at 16 degrees, just a little higher up in the minutes, but so it means it's conjunct, it's right together. So these energies are blending, and you know, Venus is about relationships, about finances, but also very much about self-worth. It's also about style and beauty. And being a crab degree with Venus, it also oddly means like interior decoration, collecting beautiful stuff. You know, this reminds me of like going to antique fairs nearby. You know, that vibe is here too. But I should mention that only 2 days before this new moon, on June 4th, we have a Venus cazimi with the sun. It means that Venus is in the heart of the sun, and she is electrified. She is, you know, by the bright light of the sun, enlightened, and just receives a lot of information, a lot of consciousness, a lot of clarity, a lot of revelations. And you know, what's so interesting about Venus is that the way she moves with the sun and us, it creates a pattern, and it creates a rose pattern. And so every I think 4 to 8 years or something, she makes one of those petals in the rose shape. So June 4th, 2 days before this, she meets with the sun at 14 degrees of Gemini, okay? That is, by the way, a Taurus degree, so it's also about, well, it's very Venusian because that's what she rules. So it's about art, about pleasures, about, you know, food, and music, and the tangible economic side, practical side of life as well. So what's interesting is that this occurred before. So in June 2020, Venus was retrograde in Gemini when there was a Venus Sun cazimi as well, also at 14 degrees, because that's one of those rose petal points. Yeah, so from 2020, which was the retrograde period, so it means that Venus was very more internal, like it was more about your self-worth. It was very much about your values and changing and knowing what happened in 2020. It's about changing the values. You know, the values were changed, obviously. A collective, you know, pandemic that changed everything. But it also meant that you had to review, you know, what is important to you, because unfortunately that pandemic caused, I believe, a greater pandemic in most people, and that is just so much tiredness and whatever that is, if it's long COVID or you know, other technological stuff we're dealing with, such as 5G and more, and just a lot of things that we might not be very much aware of yet, but Pluto in Aquarius will make us aware of that in the coming 20 years. Don't you worry. But it, you know, it has changed our reality, and not just because of an illness and all the like regulational impact of that, but it has impacted social behavior, right? Humanity has become much less social because of that. And as I said, tired, and maybe a plethora of other things as well, but mainly I feel those two, of being tired, so not having a lot of energy anymore for many things. The tiredness is also just being done with BS and not wanting to invest your time in stuff that don't matter, right? Which is okay. It's actually really important that your energy isn't scattered away. And as 14 degrees of Gemini is a Taurus degree, it's natural that you're more focused, with this Venus rose point that I'm talking about, the cazimi with the sun. So yeah, we had to review what was important for us, and just the whole social element changed. Like, perhaps we are a little bit less social than normal. Well, that was back then, 2020, because of Venus being retrograde. So all this stuff that I just mentioned, this was what we contemplated. This is what our mind, our body went through and had to review. And so post 4 years later now, Venus is coming to this position again, but now, she's in direct motion, she's in full speed, she's in power, she is ready, she's out there, she's energetic, right? So fueled by what was learned 4 years ago, and I mean by you, now you have a different mental space. Now you're clear on some of these choices. You understand for yourself what is valuable to you, and a Taurus degree means also what you want to build. That's more clear for you since 4 years. And yeah, so you might have an increased, stronger self-worth, better understanding of yourself and what matters to you, what is essential to you, what is worthy to you, what is absolutely important to you, and also about relationships and finances and possible creations or art. And it means that there are new choices to be made. And I think from June 4th on, with that whole review process of the last 4 years, I think you're very clear on what you want, what you feel worthy of. So 2 days after this Sun-Venus cazimi, you're in the right headspace to make these wishes, to make these manifestations at the new moon in Gemini. So now you are making new choices based on a higher understanding of your self-worth, and that results in very different outcomes. So it's quite interesting. And nothing is a coincidence, right? That this occurs so close to this new moon. So this is playing in this new moon, and I think regarding to manifestation or wishes, this should be used, because this is an opportunity, these are possibilities, and yeah, you want to take advantage of it from this momentum. So yeah, as I said, a grander sense of self-worth, and that leads to different choices, okay? And we could see, I guess, in the chart what kind of choices. I'd say twofold, because, well, first, positively, to the South Node, this new moon with Venus story is about healthier relationships, about letting go of toxicity, of relating to people in an unpleasant way. So giving too much of yourself, you're done with that. because you feel a grander sense of self, right? A grander self-worth. So you're not going to do these toxic behaviors anymore of putting someone else first, be it in a relationship or in friendship or whatever. And but also, you know, pleasing others. You're done with that. You know, should be a healthier view on this. You can care for people, but from a cup that's full, right? From a self-prioritizing position, because that's what we have now halfway learned with the North Node being in Aries, which is also sextiling this new moon and Venus. So it means that the nodes are favorably working with this new moon, and it just means that our fate is being reshuffled. And yeah, so a grander understanding of self, you know, more self-esteem and courage and embracing leadership is gonna change the course naturally, right? And this is gonna impact relationships in a positive way, by eliminating behaviors that weren't beneficial in a relationship. But then it's also squaring Saturn in Pisces at 18 degrees, almost 19. New moon and Venus squaring Saturn brings a lot of seriousness to this lunation. Saturn is like, you know, holding this big rope and, you know, reining in the energy a bit and being like, I want you to focus. I want you to have discipline. I want you to finish things. I want you to have full responsibility. I want you to have integrity. Because the possible downside sometimes of Gemini is, I think, related to the ruler Mercury, who is a bit cunning and mischievous in the mythology. And it means that, you know, there's this, because Gemini is a very clever energy, it can also be very cunning and, like, you know, have their way with words and sort of impress you and, you know, have this charm. So you know, it can be a bit immoral and unethical in its very negative expressions. And this square to Saturn is like, watch out for that. Watch out for deceit and just keep your integrity in check. You know, be responsible for your own thinking, for your own doing, for your spiritual practices, because it is in Pisces. This is also about, you know, healing, as it is in Pisces. So there's that aspect. You know, not overdoing, not over procrastinating, or just tampering a bit of that fun-loving and light energy, perhaps sometimes superficial energy of Gemini, where Saturn is like, okay, we have to go a little bit deeper and we have to be more serious and be more devoted to our goals and make sure that, you know, as Gemini is about the choices we're going to make, especially with the higher self-worth now with this Venus process. Yeah, Saturn is just there to make sure you make responsible, solid decisions. You know, a maturity, whereas Gemini usually would not have that. So it's just like a true grandfather that Saturn is, and or grandfatherly energy, I should say. and this teacher that Saturn is. It's like, okay, kids, get your head straight. You know, don't lose your mind. Don't follow every little lead you have. Don't follow every, you know, don't believe everything that is said or being presented to you. And it's a bit of this stop-go energy where, you know, normally with this greater sense of self, this greater self-worth, and a new moon energy would be like, go, go, go. Especially with Gemini, it's a fast energy. It's like, all right, let's do this, 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 and that. And think about this, 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 and that. But Saturn here is like, yeah, a little bit like, we're gonna pull the brakes and not be that crazy. We're not going to do everything. We're not going to follow all the 5 choices or whatever. It's just a little bit of a limiting energy, you know? Whereas maybe it will be fine with having 2 options and like 2 choices, but the Saturn energy won't be all right with having too many, overstretching yourself, and then you'll feel like there's a blockage, like some things might not go the way you want it. And especially, I suppose, as Gemini being about mobility, this is literal roadblocks, like literal or you know, figurative, but literally, you know, you might not be able to cross a road or a train situation, that just whatever. It's just even local mobility, short distance travel could be of an issue with this square to Saturn. But, you know, I always see square as ultimately that's will happen, but that's just to get your attention. Ultimately, a square is about getting your attention and pushing you towards, I suppose, a higher expression. Yeah, to push you away from lower expressions to higher expressions. So the higher expression here is Saturn in Gemini. So that means, like, for instance, Saturn will be okay with you doing multiple things, but one of them has to be healing. So let's say you have a writing project that you want to bring out into this world, but then it will kind of demand you to go to some form of therapy as well. You know what I mean? There has to be a healing element. One of the choices has to be about healing. Deep, deep healing. And you have to consider a spiritual practice. You have to sometimes not do and just sit and be quiet. And see, this is the struggle, because Gemini is social and has this interest to talk a lot, to have a lot of that noise around them, and to, you know, engage. But then Pisces, where Saturn is at, is about solitude, taking it slow and quiet, you know, which is the opposite of Gemini, which is why it's a square. So, but it's a challenge because the focus is now in Gemini. So we will be inclined to be social and to make a lot of noise and be distracted and like do a lot of things and roll all over the place. But then Saturn in Pisces will demand us to rein back, sit down, slow down, no speaking, no doing, and just taking a little moment in between. So, and if you don't do that sort of voluntarily, then Saturn hands out the lessons, right? So you want to be careful. And also, this increases also the mental health aspect, where the Gemini will be very mentally focused. And Saturn in Pisces can bring in the health element, where you might be aware of the unhealthy parts of the mental space, right? So definitely a healing element, definitely a spiritual element, and definitely slowing down, roadblocks, also time related. Saturn is time. So whereas in Gemini everything is fast, right? Saturn is here slow. Saturn is long term, Gemini is short term. And also Saturn is about, this is, I think, quite important, and the real reason of this square, I believe. So Saturn in Pisces is about your dreams, your dream life, your in a way your fantasies, but like your vision, your imagination, absolute creation, and like even unconditional love. But then Gemini can be so distracted by so many ideas, and again be kind of caught up in the mental side of things, like the rationality of it, that the distraction might also be distracting you from your dreams. You want to be careful with that, because with this Gemini new moon, we are in an energy that we will have a lot of interests, and that's fine. That is part of it. But I think what's so difficult about Gemini energy is that it's difficult to prioritize. Like, what is more important than another choice? Like, what needs more of my attention, and maybe something else less of attention. So this, although even though this is quite a mental process too, but more practical, right? So in Gemini lacks, I believe, a bit of that practical element. So Saturn will have none of that. And Saturn is here to create that prioritization process. So it will demand you to make choices according to what's more important than something else. And on top, like like a pyramid, like the most important thing at the top, the crown, should be your dream. So you should not lose what you're doing. Like, you should be focused on what you should be focused on your ultimate legacy. So that will be a constant reminder by Saturn in the coming 6 months. So yeah, a lot of choices you want to explore, but then have a prioritization list for yourself. And on top is your absolute dream. Don't lose sight of that. Make sure that that's in the process that you're working towards. To not lose that out of sight, not out of mind, and not out of heart at all. You know, even if it feels very far away, the dream, or even if it feels unrealistic, which is fine. Gemini is not realistic necessarily, so that's fine. Actually, Saturn is here, the more realistic part. So, I think because Saturn is about the realistic aspect of your dreams. I mean, it's about grounding in the dreams. It's about making them real. It's about, again, working towards your legacy, towards the spiritual importance of your lifetime. But it understands, and we understand, that that is a process, right? You're not necessarily at your dream tomorrow, and you have to work towards it, and there are components to it. There are subjects, to it. And so it wants you to explore as well. The Gemini energy is not here for no reason. You want to explore. You want to like, for instance, I started an acting journey in 2012, and I wanted to, well, I did a theater school, and my lifelong dream was to be an actress. And I did it. Eventually, after a very long time in my life, I followed my absolute childhood dream. But what I didn't know back then, that it was kind of a journey to get me into very deep healing, because acting is a wonderful form of therapy, I'll tell you, because it increases your self-worth, and you learn how to express yourself, how to handle different emotions and how to express them. And for me, being very insecure back then, it was important for me to be able to stand somewhere in my own power, and being able to, bring across a message or something. I wanted to be more secure in myself, and acting is a wonderful, the act of learning it. So going to a theater course or class, I can highly advise that if this is an interest of you, because you learn to also present, right, yourself, just like here I do in the video. But as I said, what it really did was open the gates of very deep healing, and opening so many other choices and paths and roads that I went through. So it just reminds me of this square between Saturn and the new moon, that you want to explore those different options, and there is not necessarily an end goal to what you do. You just follow what is closest to your heart, having the faith and the trust that that will lead to other wonderful paths. Yeah, I think that somehow is related to this, and I hope it inspires you to make sure that it's okay to have, different interests, and explore them. This is important. But then Saturn will just demand you, again, as I said, to prioritize some of these choices, and to bring more focus to one or two of those, and not overstress yourself. You're not going to do 5 things. You're not going to do 5 projects, There's a main, and then there should be some healing, therapeutic thing you do, and then maybe another interest that you follow, and that somehow will blend and get you to maybe even a path you didn't even imagine at all before. Saturn also being in a Virgo degree, this is definitely also body, mind, and spirit health, and the balance between these 3 that will continuously be, pulled together and reshaped. So make sure you take care of your body, your mind, but also your spiritual self. And also, by the way, this is on another level Because Gemini is about information. It's at a crab degree, so it's also information about security related issues, okay? And this square to Saturn is also, you know, BS information and like fake news and stuff being put out there that's not true. So I always say the only way to know what information is true or not is your intuition, and that's also Saturn in Pisces. So when you are more healthy, more secure, and, you know, feeling worthy in your body, mind, and spirit, then your intuition enhances, and that is how you're capable to weigh like what's true, what's BS. So the aspect of information is there too. So a lot of bullshit might be surfacing the next 6 months, and they might not be true. And also, I don't know, some health related issues could also come up, as it is in Gemini. That could also be, you know, breath, breathing, lung health, and mental health. And then Saturn being in a Virgo degree, again, all forms of health, physical health, mental health, spiritual health, and like also unseen health issues, which is, you know, also like bacteria and viruses. So there's also that. So that's a little bit troublesome, I would say. But the more you take care of yourself, the less a danger anything else is to you. And you just want to become stronger and stronger in your own notion of who you are. And honestly, that will be like, you know, nothing will stick to you when you're in that position. It's quite important to also watch the Jupiter in Gemini video to understand this energy perhaps more. Jupiter is going to go over all this Gemini energy, and it's actually going to go over this new moon point. So Jupiter is going to go over this new moon point in August, and then because of the retrograde, it's going to go over this 16-degree point again in December. And this is very interesting because August and December are also the months where Jupiter squares Saturn. So where this new moon is at, right? That's where Jupiter is going to get, and that means that it's going to be enhanced and like magnified and be made much bigger by Jupiter in August and December. So all the like negative things that I said here, you should watch out for in August and in December. So that's where, you know, the bullshit, the deceit, the lies are increased, and health or security related issues are increased as well. Yeah, so again, watch the Jupiter and Gemini video to understand this better. You know, the ruler of this lunation is, of course, Mercury, who's in Gemini, comfortable and just a lot of information, kind of trining Pluto, which is deep, investigative, intelligent information. You know, this is a time to really increase your knowledge, and so that you're not fed these lies, right? So you're not accepting these lies, so that you know better. Yeah, knowledge is power. So in this trine to Pluto, that's what I see. Now, if you look at the asteroid chart, we see that Lucifer is right on, together with Mercury, the ruler of this situation. And that means, you know, some dark, rebellious information coming up, going against authority kind of energy. And you want to be careful of like false light, false information stuff still. In the chart for the new moon, we also see Pandora right there. So there is this danger of things opening up and a lot of things coming to the surface. And Pandora's box is known to bring a lot of havoc, a lot of issues, and sort of like the deep, dark secrets that also come out. Then the creator of Pandora is right next to her, Vulcan, and you know, there is this interest to learn skills, develop your skills. That's definitely here, and advisable to do. Yeah, and of course, Mercury, the ruler, is also very near Jupiter in Gemini. So again, as I said, watch the Jupiter in Gemini video, because that plays along with this new moon. Ultimately, this is a major launch point, start off of a new journey, new choices, new story. So there's definitely that. And just keep in mind of the Saturn element. But I do, you know, Venus being in the heart of the situation, we feel good, okay? And we should not ignore that. And the feeling good and feeling secure in ourselves, feeling worthy, is just, that is going to catapult us, okay? So personally, that's where you should focus on. And also, of course, look where 16 degrees of Gemini falls in your chart. What kind of house is that? Below this video, you'll see a brief description, maybe just a reminder, like, oh, what was it? Okay, that's what it is. Because the new moon being in that house means that that topic is ignited for you personally. And that's the topic that you can work with for the wishes, for the manifestation. You know, there is this kickoff energy. Just follow your instincts, follow your interests, but just keep in mind that there should be focus and priority. Other than that, I hope you have a wonderful new moon in Gemini, and I'll see you in the next one, which is very powerful time of 2 big full moons in Capricorn. And before I leave, do not forget to like and subscribe. You would help me out a lot. It will show me that you support me, that you like this. It helps me to feel motivated, obviously. And please leave a comment. You know, in what house is Gemini for you? Perhaps I can enlighten you a little bit more. So yeah, enjoy yourself, and also remember that the health of your body, mind, and the spiritual side is something to not ignore for the coming 6 months. Please take care of yourself and actively do things to enhance your health, okay? Because that will be supported with this lunation. All right, take care. Bye.